New data indicates things may be taking a turn for the better in the UAE economy. I'm Eddie Taylor, and on today's issue of Inside AB, I'm joined by Jeremy Lawrence to look at some factors in the UAE economy that might give us some cause for optimism. So Jeremy, it's something you've been quite bullish about, isn't it really? Sort of trying to separate the anecdotal evidence from the actual hard business facts about where we are in the economy. And we've got some new data that came out, 3 batches of interesting data that paints a slightly positive picture of where we are. If you want to talk us through those to begin with.
Yeah, it's always about trying to separate the chatter from the actual data that we see. So what data do we see? Well, this last week we've seen business licenses. Ministry of Economy figures say that 532,000 business licenses were issued from January the 1st to the end of August. That's 9% growth on 2017. Admittedly, it was quite low in 2017, but still 9% is 9%. Abu Dhabi and Dubai accounted for 85% of that total, as you'd expect. And just to put it in the context, in last year's World Bank, the Ease of Doing Business report, the UAE is 21st. So we're very high on the ease of doing business, and a lot of licenses are being issued as a result.
So that's business licenses. What's also interesting is that these new businesses that are being created, businesses are actually hiring as well.
They are. Bait, they had a job survey. It said 7 in 10 workers said their company had hired new employees in the last 6 months. Just to break down that a little bit further, 56% reported hiring new employees in the last 3 months, 78% planning to hire in the next 3 months, and 86% said that their company was planning to hire in the next year.
So that's optimism. That's people believing that their companies will grow, that they will have a need for new employees. Again, that's positive sentiment. You wouldn't be having these kind of survey responses without a belief that the economy is expanding.
Exactly.
Non-oil sector growth is obviously a big thing for this part of the world, where you're talking about the diversification agenda, you're talking about other engines of the economic story. What's been the picture there?
Particularly important in Dubai, of course. So Emirates NBD's Dubai Economy Tracker Index said that Dubai's non-oil private growth in August was roughly comparable to the month before, with wholesale and retail sectors seeing fractionally higher growth. That doesn't sound like a lot, but the total economic output rose at a faster rate in August than in July. Now, considering August is normally the worst month by a country mile, that's actually pretty good that it was picking up in the depths of summer.
Yeah, exactly. That's actually a sort of a flat line rather than an increasing thing. Yeah. So when it's come to September and October, when activity returns, you're returning from a higher base than otherwise would be expected. Yeah. So that's good. So they're kind of quite sort of micro bits of data, aren't they? Let's widen this out now. Talk about the UAE's fiscal surplus, which is another big indicator, which is actually related to oil.
Yes, of course. So it's expected to rise to 3.2% of GDP this year, the fiscal surplus, on the back of higher oil prices and production forecasts. And JP Morgan said in July that they think Brent crude will average $70 a barrel this year and next, which is pretty good. That's where it needs to be. That's fine, they're comfortable. Ratings agency Fitch says it's revised its budget balance forecast for the UAE upwards from 2.1%. It said its forecast for 2019 had gone up from 3.5 to 3.8%. So they're big numbers. They're posting pretty good incomes, basically. That's a good balance sheet.
Yeah, and the thing with higher oil prices is we know that people like Donald Trump have been trying to put pressure on the likes of Saudi to increase supply and bring the price down. But we are seeing disruption in supply, sanctions on Iran, the collapse of the Venezuela economy. So there's sort of real indicators to say that the price of oil is going to maintain a minimum of $70 a barrel for the foreseeable future.
That's not taking into account shocks, of which there could be many.
Yeah, of course. But how does that then percolate through to the man in the street, if you like?
Right, okay, so here's the key thing from that. In this part of the world, especially in the UAE, higher revenues means higher spending on infrastructure. That's what they spend it on here. So a recent Strategy and report said that Saudi Arabia, where of course the Crown Prince Mohammed is very keen to boost the economy, they're set to spend $1.1 trillion in the next 10 years up to 2038. $1.1 trillion. And the UAE expected to invest $350 billion over the same period of time. And of course, the UAE's also had its recent stimulus package announced, which was $14 billion to help stimulate the economy. Just today, we saw that in the dual licenses that have been issued to businesses that they can now apply for. So these things are coming through into the economy now. Now, what does this mean? Well, I thought it was interesting that a report said last week that Dubai Metro has added an estimated $18 billion to Dubai's economy in the 10 years since it was built.
And that's off a spend of 10 billion, isn't it?
Yeah. And accumulated future returns are set to exceed 4 times what it cost to build the metro by 2030, according to a study that was done last week. So what this means is, you know, it's not rocket science. Keynes was saying this getting on for 100 years ago. Infrastructure spending directly feeds into the health of the economy. And because of the oil price, that will be spent on infrastructure.
And it spreads the wealth around, doesn't it? Because basically that's going into the hands of engineering companies, into contractors, into constructors. That then gets put back into the economy in terms of discretionary spending, in restaurants and in lifestyle and entertainment and schools and everything. So the more money that's being put in by the government from higher oil revenues fans around the whole landscape.
Yeah. So to conclude, you've got these 5 points. 3 of them are things that are happening now, that are seeds in the ground, as it were, that's just right now, this month, last month. Then you've got those last 2 points of what we can expect in the months and years to follow.
So let's hope the positive news keeps on coming for the UAE economy. Thank you very much for watching this issue of Inside AB. Do join us again every weekday at 10 a.m. for more. Thank you for watching.